Hello, Soberinos, and welcome to this week's Friday Fix. Today, I am talking, a bit different today, I am talking about marbles. Now, this might seem strange, because it is strange, let's face it. What on earth do marbles have to do with stopping drinking, changing habits, and building healthier lifestyles? Well, with any kind of change to a habit or change to a behavior, whether it's drinking alcohol in an unhealthy way, whether it's stopping smoking, whether it's biting your nails, whether it's being kinder to yourself, whatever the habit that you want to change or stop, it's much easier to be successful at doing that when you have high levels of motivation. And when you are incorporating a new healthy habit into your lifestyle that involves proactively doing something, one of the ways that you can stay motivated and stay inspired and keep yourself going even in times of stress is by kind of marking your progress, noticing your progress, measuring your progress. So let me give you an example. This is all going to become clear in a moment. I am going somewhere with this. It is leading to a point. So it helps to track progress when you can see what you're doing and you can mark it in some way. That helps to keep you motivated. So here are a few examples. Let's say, for instance, you decide you want to get fitter. And so you set yourself a target of going for a run 3 times a week. You would know that you had successfully achieved running 3 times a week because you could either tick it off in your calendar, you would have it somewhere on your diary or your calendar, and you would tick off each time that you did it. But not only that, you would also know because you are proactively doing something. When you get back from your run and you're all rosy cheeked and windswept and sweaty, and you're wearing your running clothes and you take your running clothes off and you jump in the shower, there's a physical feeling of having achieved the thing you set out to achieve. You have proactively taken action and your body and your mind recognizes that when you've finished. So there's a proactive action or behavior that has to be done that tells you when you've done it that you've achieved the thing you set out to do. If, for instance, you decide you want to do 10 push-ups every day, you know when you've done it because you can count the 10 push-ups. If, for instance, you decide you want to eat more healthily and you're going to eat 5 pieces of veg and fruit every day as a minimum, you can keep tracking that. You can keep marking that you've done that. You can tick off on a piece of paper each time you've had a piece of fruit. You can gather together all the skins of the pieces of fruit that you've eaten during the day and have a little sort of recycling ceremony at the end of the day where you can visually see that you have got all of the remnants of the pieces of fruit and veg that you've eaten in some kind of bag or basket or something that you're going to recycle, whatever it is you're going to do with it. You've got some kind of visual and tactile way of marking that you have done the thing you've set out to do. Let's say, for instance, you decide you want to do 1 act of kindness every day. You will know, you will be able to mark that because you will have that feel-good factor after you've done that act of kindness. You might even also be ticking it off on a diary or a calendar or in some way keeping a record of it. The point I'm making is that when we decide to change a habit, to adopt a new habit or a new behavior, if we can find some way of noticing when we've done it and marking it recognizing our progress, that helps us to feel a sense of achievement and fulfillment, which helps to keep us motivated and inspired and to keep moving forwards. And it's much easier to do that when the habit we are cultivating is a proactive action. But what if the habit we are wanting to cultivate is a lack or an absence of something? So, for instance, like we want to stop drinking alcohol, we want to live our lives alcohol free, or that we want to stop eating sugar, reduce the amount of sugar that we're eating. What if the thing we want to change is about not doing something instead of proactively doing something? How then can we find ways to motivate ourselves by marking it, keeping a track of our progress and recording each time we don't do that thing? It's much, much easier to record and acknowledge our progress and stay motivated when we're focusing on what we do want to do rather than what we don't want to do. So one of the ways around this is to actually find a replacement activity and specify in positive terms the thing we want to do instead of the thing we don't want to do. So if, for instance, I want to stop drinking alcohol, what I might do is set myself a positively phrased goal for each day, or maybe for each meal of each day, where I would say something like, this evening I'm going to drink peppermint tea instead of alcohol, or this evening I'm going to drink soda water and lime instead of alcohol, or this evening I'm going to drink a hot chocolate instead of alcohol. So giving yourself something positive to focus on rather than what you don't want to be doing can really help, because instead of saying, well, I don't want to drink today, I'm not going to drink today, I'm not going to drink this week, there's no way of kind of measuring that's visual or tactile, or that categorically tells you that you've achieved the thing you wanted to set out to achieve. Does that make sense? When we're proactively choosing to do something and introduce a new behavior, it's much, much easier to notice it, to acknowledge it, to celebrate that we've done it, and to record that we've done it to keep ourselves motivated. I feel like I'm repeating myself there, but I hope you get the point. When you decide that the thing you want to achieve is not doing something, it's much harder to acknowledge that and notice it when you're doing it. Because if, for instance, let's take the sugar example. If I decide that I want to reduce or cut out the sugar that I'm eating, let's say, for instance, this morning I didn't have sugar with my breakfast. Let's say at lunchtime today I didn't have a sugary treat or snack or dessert afterwards. I'm not actually marking that in any way. I'm not noticing that in any way, because it's kind of, I haven't done it. Rather than I have done something, it's something I haven't done. So one way of doing it is to choose something else to do instead that you can record and mark and notice, record your progress, tick it off when you have done it. So I might say to myself, instead of drinking alcohol, I'm going to have a herbal tea, a hot chocolate, whatever. I might say to myself, instead of having sugar today, each time I feel like reaching for sugar, I am going to reach for a raw carrot. Okay, admittedly, a raw carrot doesn't sound quite as tempting as sugar, but you get the point. If you're proactively doing something, you can actually record when you've done it. So it makes it much easier to stay motivated. The other way of doing it, not necessarily with marbles, it could be anything else, is to get yourself an empty jar. This jar is no longer empty. This jar has 2 marbles in it. I'm going to put it down because it's making a lot of noise. The other way to do it is to find a visual way, of a visual and tactile way of recording when you haven't done the thing that you want to stop doing. And so what I'm doing, because I have realized, I've recognized that I've been turning to sugar more than I want to be doing. So I'm starting from this week, I am not eating sugar during the week. This is something that I've done before, and it works really well for me, that I only allow myself sweet treats and a kind of anything goes in terms of eating at the weekends. But because I've been a bit under the weather, because I'd broken my toe, I ended up being very lazy and very kind of, oh, well, what I need to do at the moment is to heal and to just be good to myself and treat myself. Unfortunately, the treating myself um, kind of went too far, so that my habit became pretty much having sugar after lunch in the middle of the day, and having sugar after dinner in the evening, and having sugary snacks and things in between. That's how addictive sugar is. So what I've decided to do, because I know this works, I've done it before, is to create a visual and tactile way of recording each time I don't have sugar. Now you can use marbles, you can use counters, you can use money, you can use coins, you can use notes. But an empty jar is a really useful thing to do. Let me take these marbles out so they're not making so much of a noise. But yeah, an empty jar. You start with an empty jar. And the way I've started doing it is each day of the week that I avoid sugar and eat something else instead, I'm adding a marble. So this started yesterday. No, sorry, day before yesterday. Added a marble. Yesterday, I added another marble. Today, I'll be adding another marble. And already I can feel my motivation changing, because I have something proactive to do. I have rather than an absence or a lack of something, I have a proactive action that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be dropping a marble into my empty jar at the end of each day when I haven't had any sugar. And it's amazing the difference this makes, because it's got me focused. It's got me focused on imagining dropping the marble into the jar at the end of the day. So instead of, it's much easier to focus on something proactive than it is to focus on what we're not doing. It's much, much easier. So because I'm focusing on putting the marble into the jar at the end of the day, that's keeping me motivated. So it's what time right now? It's 20 past 11 in the morning. And I will be having lunch in about 45 minutes, 60 minutes time. And the habit I've got into would be to reach for something sugary after my lunch. However, because I'm now already planning on putting the marble into the jar at the end of the day, I'm not going to be reaching for sugar, because I know I want to put the marble in the jar at the end of the day. I mean, this is really kindergarten stuff, but it works. It works because it's giving you a focus. And what you focus on is what you get more of. So the psychology behind that is that if you focus on what you don't want, like not drinking or not eating sugar, your brain is not able to process the not, or the no, or the don't. If there's a negative word in that sentence somewhere, your brain isn't able to process that very well. So when we're thinking about what we don't want to do, as in not drinking, not eating sugar, that word not kind of gets bypassed by the brain, and what we're focusing on is the sugar or the drinking or whatever it is we don't want to be doing. So it's much better instead to focus on what we do want to be doing. And what I do want to be doing is putting a marble in my jar at the end of the day. So whether it's a counter, whether it's a marble, whether it's a coin, whether it's a note, you can choose a visual way of recording each time you successfully don't do the thing you want to stop doing. And it makes it much easier for you to stay strong, for you to power through, for you to stay inspired, for you to stay motivated when you're creating a visual way of recording what you're doing and recording your progress. And what I'm going to be doing when the jar is full, which isn't going to take that long, a month maybe at the most, when the jar is full, I will be treating myself to either a haircut, which is extremely overdue, or I'll be treating myself to an item of clothing. So there's a kind of double whammy in terms of motivation there. So for every day that I don't eat sugar, a marble's going in, that jar will fill up quicker the more days I don't eat sugar, and I'll be able to treat myself to a haircut or some clothes, new clothes, when that jar is full. So top tip, marbles, counters, whatever you want to use, but create a visual tactile experience of recording every time you successfully don't do the thing you want to stop doing. Let me just see if there was anything else I wanted to say about that. Yeah, there is another way I could do this, which I'm toying with at the moment. Instead of putting a marble in at the end of the day, I could add a marble for each trigger point during the day when I would have ordinarily reached for sugar. So whether you're doing this for not drinking, whether you're doing this for not eating sugar or anything else that you might be doing it for, you can either choose the trigger points during the day that are coming up, and you can say to yourself, well, I could say to myself, when I don't eat sugar at lunchtime, I'm going to add a marble. When I don't eat a sugary snack in the afternoon, I'm going to add a marble. When I don't eat dessert after my evening meal, I'm going to add a marble. That way the jar would fill up a lot more quickly, and I'd be able to stay much more on top of my motivation and my progress. So if you're feeling particularly challenged, it might be a good idea to do it in a much more regular and repetitive way. I don't really need to do that at the moment. I'm quite happy and quite confident with just adding a marble at the end of the day. Plus, it would cost me a fortune if the jar was filling up really quickly and easily, and I was buying myself a new item of clothing every week. So I'm happy to stick with putting a marble in at the end of each day and watching the pot fill up. But you can choose whatever way of doing it suits you. So 2 top tips to keep your motivation going, whether it's related to stopping drinking, whether it's related to cutting down on your sugar intake, is to either frame it positively and to choose what you're going to be doing instead and keep a record, keep ticking that off when you do it, or it's to create a visual and tactile way of recording each time you don't do the activity that you wanted to stop doing. That all feels a bit wordy and jumbled, but you know what I mean. Hopefully I've got the point across. So yeah, use marbles, use whatever it is that suits you, but visual, tactile representation of each time you successfully achieve the thing you've set out to do. Because this is about building daily habits, building daily behaviours, and finding ways to record that and mark our progress, which keeps us motivated, our motivation levels topped up high, and keeps us on track. And success breeds success. So each day that you do this successfully, it's easier to do the next day successfully. We become more of what we do every day. So if every day I'm not eating sugar and I'm eating healthy vegetables, fruit, nuts instead, and I'm keeping adding those marbles in, it's much more likely that the following days, the following weeks, the following months, this is going to become an entrenched, habitual and automated habit that I don't even need to think about anymore. So there you go. Any questions, do post them in the comments below. I will look forward to catching up with you in the Saturday share in the Go Get Sober Facebook group. So if you're not already there, come along and say hello. Do join us. We would love to have you with us for more tips, more inspiration, more strategies, and general sharing of stories and where we're at on our alcohol-free living journey. I'll look forward to seeing you there. But in the meantime, let's go get sober together. Bye for now.